I remember it well. I was getting a free lunch. Oh, you don't forget those. Not if you're me and you're always looking to save money, especially when you're on a long 3-week trip to New Zealand and Australia with your family and you've got to pay for the majority of their meals. So in this free meal, I think we were in this rugby stadium in New Zealand. Yeah, Ricky Carmichael showed up. That's kind of a big deal. He is the greatest of all time, but more importantly, I was getting a free lunch. But we racing types do what we do, and by racing, I mean I'm just a guy that watches it, and I ask people that actually raced it, such as Carmichael, as many questions as I can. And when I was in New Zealand, this was in November of 2019, we were all jazzed up on the upcoming 2020 Monster Energy Supercross season and the fact that we thought there'd be so many different riders that could win. Now, the previous Weigandt video that I posted said that in reality, not a lot of riders actually will. We probably end up with 5 winners by the time most seasons are over, and that probably includes this year. And what year is this year? It doesn't matter. Don't even look at the date of this video. Whatever year it is, we think there's going to be 10 winners, and we get 5 every year, all the time. Maybe 6. That's being generous. I took a generous portion of the free lunch. I think it was a sandwich. I took 2. We were talking about all the riders that could win and why does it feel so exciting, and someone actually had the guts to say to Carmichael, man, it wasn't really as exciting in your day, RC. But let's be honest, facts are facts. He can't even deny it. When Carmichael was racing, you pretty much knew it was going to be him, Reed, or Stewart winning. Some guy would sneak in there under some wild circumstance, but for the most part, those 3 were completely dominant. And before that, Jeremy McGrath won the most Supercross races that anyone has ever won. So that era was certainly not filled with parity either. In fact, the year Carmichael took the crown from McGrath in 2001, he won 13 races in a row, which tied McGrath's record of 13 race wins in a row. That is unbelievable, the level of domination that we had come to expect at some portion of the sport. Now, I might only be averaging 5 different winners over the last 10 seasons now, but it definitely seems like there's more parity, right? It definitely seems like more riders that can win. So why is that? Yeah, I didn't race at the highest level, so I don't know. All I can do is ask someone like Carmichael over a free sandwich or 2. And he said, I think it's the training facility. I think it's the training facility. What? I think it's the training facility. Elaborate, Sir Goat. Carmichael's theory is that these days, riders grew up riding with coaches, riding at facilities, riding during the week. It's a much more homogenized, standard, almost assembly line process of building a great racer. Things were under lock and key in Carmichael's days. Not only the fact that he would not ride with his competition, would kind of overstate, Alden Baker does it this way. He has all the top riders riding with each other. Top riders, teammates, have been riding together for a long time. The difference is they maybe did not grow up riding together with coaches at facilities with similar programs. Heck, a lot of them are in the same area, like where Carmichael is from and where his track, now owned by Star Racing Yamaha, is right on the Florida-Georgia state line. No, not a country band. It's just an area where apparently land is cheap. And that's where Georgia practice facility and Millsap's training facility, and I think Justin Barcia's place and Davey Millsap's place, which was different than the Millsap's training facility and Carmichael's place, they're all in this area, right? So heck, everybody's even riding the same dirt. Then everybody moved to Central Florida, and there was a nice pack more towards the Tampa area. Again, a lot of the same riders in the same area riding the same tracks, not to mention the fact that all the test tracks in California are actually on the same piece of land, like they literally border each other. You want to talk same dirt, same weather, same everything. It's a much more homogenized, similar system for everyone, and that was Carmichael's theory as to why the racing seems to have more parity these days. Carmichael did his thing by himself, with his mom, in his formative years, when he was growing up. James Stewart did his thing by himself, with his dad and his mom, watching tapes, applying it, doing his own thing. No one knew what he was doing, and he didn't know what anyone else was doing. And then Chad Reed, I mean, this guy, he wasn't even in America. He might as well have been from a different planet, because we all knew that Carmichael and Stewart, also Travis Pastrana was supposed to be there, were going to be the dominant professional riders once they came of age. No one even knew this Australian guy even existed. And eventually got to the point where he could lock horns with Carmichael and Stewart. Here's what those 3 and their programs had in common. They weren't on programs. They were just doing their thing. They were just doing whatever. Reed out in the bush somewhere in some makeshift Supercross track with his older cousin, Craig Anderson. And Stewart just doing his thing, going to local tracks. He didn't have a coach. He didn't have data analysis. Same thing with Carmichael. They were just figuring it out as they went. It's a little bit different these days. Not just the fact that the pros don't keep things secret anymore, but the riders growing up. It's kind of similar to where the NBA has gone now, where the three-point field goal suddenly has gone from kind of a novelty to something that is not that successful, and if you do it too much, it'll actually hurt you, to now, if you do not shoot enough threes, you are going to lose. How is it possible that mankind suddenly got better at shooting? It's because everyone has a shooting coach now. And you'll hear NBA veterans say they kind of liked the old days when shooters all had different types of shots. Now every single player, from the 7-footers who would have never even considered shooting three-pointers 20 years ago, to the shorter players who try to shoot threes then and still do now, they all have perfect form because they've all been coached to shoot threes perfectly from a very young age. Sound familiar? That's what the training facility has done. You were just figuring it out in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and then all of a sudden in the 2000s, you had a coach and a track and a program and a system you could go to. And everybody learned things similarly. Now look, not everyone rides the same still. It's one of the cool things about the sport that there are still different styles, and if you watch the NBA, that's still the case too. But I think there are some very basics. I don't think you're going to see anyone who has what looks like horrible form but is still really fast just because he hangs it out. Everyone's smarter than that now. That was Carmichael's theory, that the training facility has leveled the playing field. There are no secrets, A, and B, everyone's learning to ride the right way. Which leads me to a startling revelation. I was on the Pulp Mech show as a co-host with Jason Thomas the other day. Steve Mathis is the host. Leave your comments about Mathis below. YouTube loves him. James Stewart was our guest. James said that he didn't have a riding coach growing up, and Jason Thomas, who was in camp Chad Reed back in the James Stewart-Chad Reed rivalry days, Thomas said, well, Chad didn't have a riding coach either. I would watch videos of you and try to tell Chad what to do. We didn't know how to do it. These are the elite of the elite. These are all-timers, okay? Carmichael, Stewart, McGrath, Reed, all-timers. They didn't have riding coaches. They had themselves and, like, their parents. They had some trainers maybe to teach them how to be in shape or what to eat. But they didn't have people analyzing tapes and telling them what to do. They were doing that themselves in a rudimentary fashion at best. Now, a lot of the top riders have had someone at some point tell them that, and it goes on to the higher level now because most top riders are starting to work with former top riders. It is becoming the new trend. The cycling background trainer to get you in shape was really the hot setup 10 years ago. I'm not saying Alden Baker is not still effective, but I am saying that if you look at most new riders now, they're working with old riders. Like Ferrandis with David Villemin, or Adam Cianciarulo with Nick Wey, or Sexton, who is briefly working with James Stewart. It's becoming the new trend. Riders working with riders and learning the trade, learning to do it the quote-unquote right way. It's leveled the playing field. It has taken out a lot of the variables of just doing whatever and seeing how it turns out 10 years later. So here's your final piece of data. Look, you know you've made it when you've made it on the Moto Memes Instagram account. Check this out. Oh yeah. Whose is bigger? Mine is bigger. Yes, we were all taking a tour of the Red Bull KTM factory race shop a couple of weeks ago. In the engine room, there was Roger DeCoster. The president of KTM North America, John Hines, was talking about how you can customize engines and give the riders anything they want in that factory engine room. And then Roger said, yeah, but it really doesn't matter so much. Do you want me to do the accent? It does not matter as much. They do not ask for much difference in the engines anymore. Why is that? I asked. Roger believes that most riders' riding styles, their approach, the way they attack a racetrack has become much more similar than it used to be. Yep, there's the man saying what we now all know. He said the last time, as an example, he remembers someone really doing something different was Ryan Dungey, who was so good on the inside of corners, such good mid-corner roll speed. Dungey had a big advantage when he first came in, and then everybody studied it, and everybody figured it out. And then the difference that Dungey had, wherever the heck he developed that, in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota, everyone started to learn that, everyone started to study it, everyone started to figure it out. I've talked to riding coaches like Buddy Antonez, and they said a lot of it with Dungey was less brake, less gas, more roll. Everyone figured that out. Everyone studied it. Everyone did it. Bob Hanna was a bad dude back in the day. There wasn't technique to Bob Hanna. It was just twist it more, hang off the back more, hang on tighter, want it more. That was technique back then. Technique now is Dungey's not on the gas or the brakes as hard. Let's study the video. Let's study the Go software and compare ourselves to him. And they're neutralizing the advantages. So what that means is we might not see the 13 race win streaks like McGrath and Carmichael ever did. We'll probably never see an era with Reed, Stewart, Carmichael types where you know that no one else can win. We might only average 5 race winners per season still these days, but it seems more open. It seems like more riders can win. And I think the dominant cut of Webb, Tomac, and Roczen, who are 2019, 2020, and 2021's dominant trio, doesn't feel quite as dominant as it did back in the day, because everyone is that much better, everyone is that much closer. It's coming down to other things like execution, line selection, the little things. And that's what those ex-pros are there to try to teach. So that's why the field seems closer nowadays. That's what Ricky Carmichael told me. That's what Roger DeCoster told me. They have neutralized the advantage because everyone has better coaching at an earlier age. And for someone else to come out of nowhere with a completely unorthodox way of doing it and then dominating to the clip that the previous dominators did, well, that's going to be highly unlikely. And after all, James Stewart figured out this scrub thing that, yes, other riders had done, but no one had done it at that level. And now everybody does it because everybody studies, and everybody has a coach, and everybody's at a facility. And even those that aren't at a facility are still learning from people who probably were at facilities and riding with people who were at facilities and measuring themselves with other teammates who did grow up at facilities. Facility. It's really changed the sport. Meanwhile, we'll just enjoy the parody that apparently the facilities have given us.